So again, Trey Walker, Vice President for Design and Construction, here to talk today about DART's latest project, the Silver Line, connecting across the North Texas region. A little bit of an overview on what we'll review today. Just a little bit of a brief background as as a transit provider of DART and what our system looks like, and our overview and the role that Silver Line plays within our system as a whole. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Silver Line itself, providing an overview. I really want to lean in a little bit in a presentation today and talk about the connections that we're providing within communities in North Texas. I'm a new resident, been here almost a year to the day in North Texas, and what continues to stand out is just that how we have nodes of activity spread across the region, and so I want to hone in a little bit on those connections that we're providing and the services that DART can provide in connecting those nodes of activity across the region. The Silver Line itself has a ton of freight interaction and interfacing along the corridor, so I want to talk a little bit about our construction progress and our emphasis along the corridor with our freight partners, and then ultimately talk a little bit about when are we going to be done, our vehicles, our testing strategy here, and readiness for operations. So a little bit of an overview of DART as an agency. We are a transit provider in North Texas with about a $1.8 billion budget covering 700 square miles. DART was founded in 1983 by a ballot measure that established a 1-cent sales tax to fund the build-out of the system and our operations. In total, DART operates a 93-mile light rail system comprised of the four colored lines on the screen there. We've got our green line, red, orange, and blue. We also have we are co-operators of the Trinity Railway Express with our partnership with Trinity Metro in Fort Worth. So that's the horizontal east-west line in the center of the page. And we are interfacing with the TexRail corridor on the Silver Line, so I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. We have a vast bus network that utilizes a fleet of about 570 vehicles, providing frequent local and express service. And then something unique, again, kind of talking about that development pattern and having nodes of activity that some can be served well with fixed guideway and fixed route transit. Some can be served by other means. DART operates the largest micro transit operation in North America, comprising about 2% of our total ridership in our GoLink service. So Silver Line, and how does Silver Line play and fall into that network itself? This is sort of the final corridor that was envisioned in that 1983 plan that went in front of voters that does provide an end-to-end connection without the bypass through downtown. All of the previous rail connections that I showed on the slide before have some sort of intersection and interchange through downtown Dallas. This is a line that runs from DFW on the west to Plano on the east. We are building out 10 stations that are highlighted with the dots on the map there. A terminal location that we're sharing with TexRail at Terminal B at DFW. Another outlying station at DFW with park and ride capacity at DFW North. We have a station that we're constructing at Cypress Waters at the border of Dallas and Capel. And then downtown Carrollton and Addison stations there, a walk-up station at Knoll Trail Drive, sort of in more of an office and a denser environment there along the tollway. And then 2 stations in Richardson, one at University of Texas at Dallas on their campus, and then another that's meeting up with the Red Line service at the City Line Bush development in Richardson. Finally, we have two stations being built in Plano, one at 12th Street. I'll highlight that connection that we're building there on a later slide. And then finally, the terminus of the corridor at Shiloh Road on the far east of the corridor. So in total, we're spanning 7 municipalities and a lot of airport property as we're building out this corridor. Whoops. So the benefits of the project itself, one, I'm going to spend a lot more time talking in a moment about the mobility and the connections we're providing, but I do want to highlight the opportunity and the economic asset that bringing the Silver Line to these communities can provide. Currently along the Silver Line alignment, there are about 200,000 jobs within a half mile of the alignment already. And then when we think about growth opportunities and kind of building in and infilling around those nodes of activity, we have opportunities for either transit-oriented development on our property or adjacent development along the corridor interest at many of the stations that I shared earlier. The Cypress Water Station is oriented near the Cypress Waters development. We have ongoing TOD projects in Addison, the opportunity for some work within downtown Carrollton. The City Line Station is a great example of transit-oriented development in North Texas currently, and we're bringing our station within that development to serve it as well. And then all the way in Plano at our 12th Street, we're just outside of the downtown, walking distance of downtown Plano with the stations we're building at 12th Street. So we are taking advantage of those connections where folks are going, not just for that commuting trip, but also for discretionary trips along the way. So I want to talk a little bit about sort of the mobility connections that we're providing in partnership with the North Central Texas Council of Governments. We are the build arm of the Cotton Belt Regional Trail corridor. This map shows sort of the whole expanse of the program that's in the region's mobility plan, but we're building out on the eastern edge of this with DFW kind of shown in the center of the map. And so with the corridor being advanced with Silverline, we're taking advantage of some opportunities to build trail segments in and along portions of the corridor while we have our design builder out along those portions of the corridor as well. So in total, we are bringing this trail in and through all 10 stations on the Silverline corridor, or in all of our station areas. And we're working with each city. So we have our interfacing with the city on building out the rail corridor. We have the same interfacing ultimately on the trail corridor, and the trail will ultimately be turned over to the parks for park staff for O&M responsibilities within each respective jurisdiction. So phase one we're building out right now, those are largely bridges that are integral to the rail corridor, places that will just be very difficult to access or impossible to access once we start passenger service along the Silverline. We're currently working on packaging out a phase two, which is essentially Addison east of the corridor, with hopes of delivering those around the time of revenue service on the Silverline, and that'll be about more than a 10-mile stretch of continuous trail connections that are provided with that project. And then ultimately, phase three is sort of down the road, but is a commitment from the Council of Governments to build out with future grant opportunities for the western segments of the corridor. So I just want to, again, I wanted to highlight some of the connections that we're providing between existing DART services and then other services to come. Downtown Carrollton, which is a newcomer to the region, I am still fascinated by all of the rail activity in downtown Carrollton, and then all of the other infrastructure activity that's concentrated within a relatively small footprint. But I have another slide on freight interactions in downtown Carrollton, but on the passenger side, we have our existing, in the distance there and elevated is our existing Green Line corridor that extends from downtown Dallas all the way to the extensive Carrollton on the north side. That existing platform is being extended as part of the Silverline with the addition of a stairwell and elevator to service an at-grade station that's being built and served by the Silverline. We have double main track through the station itself with side platforms that are being built. And then we have some freight operations and some moves that we're making as well, just outside the frame of this image that we're showing. We're also preserving and then the hike and bike trail, the regional trail corridor is coming across the face of one of these platforms on the north side, and that's an extension and a continuation of an existing trail network that runs through downtown Carrollton. We are also working with our partners at DCTA, the transit provider in Denton County, as they have a desire to extend the A-train corridor from its current terminus about a few miles down the Dardone MKT corridor to service just on the left side of this image. So the plan there would be a at-grade commuter rail station that's served by the A-train, an elevated light rail station, and then another at-grade station served by the Silverline. So you really do have kind of this nexus and node of possibility for multiple freight and light rail connections, as well as we have a couple bus corridors that circulate through here, serving east-west from Addison to Irving. Speaking of Addison, Addison on that original system map, the station here was called out for the Silver Line. Addison's waited just over 40 years for the build-out of the station, and we are advancing construction at this station. It's about 80% complete. It is adjacent to a very busy bus passenger facility where we have a lot of our express and our heavily utilized local corridors that bypass through this area. So we're providing walk-up service between the rail facility and the existing bus facility, as well as connections to the hike and bike trail. And then we are also, like I said earlier, we're in the process of a transit-oriented development along DART's property and the city, working on a transit-oriented development adjacent to the station as well. So really kind of reshaping this entire node in Addison, where there is already a lot of amenities within walking distance of the station itself. All right, and then in Plano, I talked a little bit about City Line being just sort of the one of the standards for us and success stories with transit-oriented development, with the red and orange light rail corridors extending through sort of the center of that development, with State Farm and their headquarters adjacent. But about a mile and a half up the road, we're building two stations as part of the Silver Line. We're building an infield light rail station between downtown Plano and City Line around 12th Street. That station providing a walking connection to our at-grade Silver Line station that is going to be between K and M, I believe, or K and Municipal in Plano. And we do have a lot of activity adjacent to this corridor with prospective development, both in the downtown Plano side and as we start moving south towards City Line. So some project overviews of what we're working with as we kind of build out this corridor, and we are fully in build mode right now. We do have coordination ongoing with 7 municipalities across the region and with DFW International Airport. We're building right now. We're primarily building a double main corridor. There is about a 1 mile segment of single track section right between City Line and 12th Street that I showed on the slide previously. But primarily, we've got double main corridor that's being built out. There are 2 freight deviations, one in Capel, and then one that allows us to serve Silver Line, where the freight corridor that is interlined with the Silver Line will be operating solely by itself while we deviate away from it. We're providing 3 connection points to a DART light rail system infrastructure at DFW, downtown Carrollton, and City Line itself. All told, we've got about 50 grade crossings that are going in place along the corridor, and 34 new bridges, 2 of which are on one of those freight islands that I just referenced. In addition to those 34 freight bridges, we have 7 pedestrian bridges that are being advanced as phase 1 construction of the regional trail. And I was talking to someone before I walked up about sort of the density of single family development that we have along the corridor in North Dallas specifically. A lot of sound mitigation is going in place. In that portion of the corridor, we've got about 750,000 square feet of sound wall construction that's going on, with the vast majority of that being concentrated in the North Dallas portion of the corridor. And then last but certainly not least, we have interfacing with 4 freight providers along the corridor, either being interlined with the eventual service on the Silver Line or a crossing with B and SF in and around the downtown Carrollton area. So we've got individual measures that we're taking to ensure that the partnership with our freight providers in and along the corridor. One can be shown on the image on the top of the screen there with DG&O crossing. This is a new bridge construction, a former at-grade crossing at Josie Lane in downtown, or near downtown Carrollton, about a mile and a half east of downtown. Originally a grade crossing that is now grade separated. We're building double main, so first First order of business was constructing the new bridge, bridge number 1 over the corridor, moving freight operations from the active at grade crossing to the elevated bridge, moving freight onto that, and now we're currently building the second bridge, and I have a photo of that on an upcoming slide. So that's just an example of sort of how we're keeping freight active on the corridor while building out the Silver Line itself. Those freight interactions, kind of I'll walk from east to west. So on the right side of the image, the sort of red part of the screen is our interface with CPKC on the eastern edge from Richardson to Plano. You can see the deviation that we will make crossing US 75 to serve City Line, and then rejoining with the Cotton Belt corridor on the eastern side of 12th Street in Plano. There is no freight in North Dallas, so that is a freight abandoned portion of the corridor as enacted by the Surface Transportation Board about a decade ago. But we do rejoin with freight operations in Addison and DG&O carrying through downtown Carrollton. We've got the crossing with BNSF on their corridor and the Darnall-Medill corridor in downtown Carrollton, and then ultimately moving to the west, we have Fort Worth and Western operations through Carrollton, Capel, and into Grapevine on the portion that more or less borders Beltline Road. So this is sort of the nexus of it all, where everything kind of comes together from a freight perspective and infrastructure perspective. This is downtown Carrollton about 3 weeks ago from aerial photography. So you see a BNSF train on the corridor right now. That corridor itself, so the Silver Line is more or less running along the center of the page. We will come through under the dark green line running from left to right. The Silver Line will come through, serve the station, and then ultimately get up and over on a bridge on the top of the screen. We will then bring DG&O and BNSF across and underneath that passenger train bridge to serve properties and customers to the east. And then, as I talked about earlier, with the crossover track to the MKT line running north-south along the dark green line, this would be that location for potential DCTA future station to be serving downtown Carrollton as well. So you'd have the Silver Line light rail, the Silver Line regional rail at grade, and then another regional rail service that's taking place and connecting in here from Denton County. So another example of some freight coordination that we have along the corridor on the CPKC territory along on the eastern side of the Silver Line. We worked with them to implement a runaround out of the territory while we built out the corridor in this area for about 14 months. That work concluded, and we have a continuous track for their operations running from Richardson to Plano. We brought them back on March the 3rd of this year, and so they've been operating since March 3rd, and this is a photo of testing their locomotive through the station at 12th Street, or at Shiloh Road, as we brought them back into service on March 3rd. Construction progress. Again, I said the focus of the project right now is construction and working through everything that we're putting together. Station progress in general, we're about 60 to 70% on average on most stations. We do have an independent or individual art and design program at each station that's being implemented. This is an example that's shown of some windscreen art program that is at the Addison station, which is probably the furthest along station, about 80% complete. Track construction, we've got a little over 50 miles of track being installed along the corridor. We continue to progress with roadbed construction and track construction. Our bridge progress, again, with 34 bridges on the corridor, 2 on the freight island. This is an example, this is the image I referenced earlier with the beam setting for the Josie Lane bridge number 2 that's going in place. And if you're driving the corridor and you kind of follow that Beltline Road segment of the corridor, you can see a lot of this phase 1 and phase 2 bridge actions as we complete phase 1, move freight over onto that bridge, and then begin our construction or continue to advance our construction at a phase 2 bridge location. Pedestrian bridges, we've got the 7 here. We just set the pedestrian bridge across Dallas North Tollway. We do cross Dallas North Tollway with 2 freight bridges, or two commuter rail bridges, and then 1 pedestrian bridge at this location. Matt, our project executive for the Archer Western Herzog, our design builder, requested that I share that this was a really impressive operation. All told, about an hour and a half of a shutdown on DNT last Saturday night, and the bridge setting itself, once traffic was clear, was in 23 minutes. So really a great job by the team there, and kind of having a plan and then ultimately working it to get this in place with minimal impacts to the public. Our systems progress, we're working on crossings across the corridor and our intermediate signals along the entire stretch of the project. And what we're working towards is a segmental testing plan to be able to turn on and get our vehicles on portions of the corridor in stages. Our infrastructure is going to be coming along in segments, starting with segment C in about July of this year. We'll have everything built out in Richardson and Plano, and hope to move a vehicle to that portion of the corridor to begin testing on the corridor. Segment A will be coming on about Q4 of this year. It's about a 17-mile stretch in total of the portion of the corridor. And then finally, we have 2 critical bridge structures in North Dallas at Hillcrest and at Coit that are under construction, and the infrastructure on those that portion will continue into first quarter of next year, with all told working towards end-to-end testing on the corridor in June of 25, and revenue service tentatively targeted for end of 25, early 26. Track installation, kind of following that pattern, where we're advancing our track installation primarily in that segment C. We've got segment A coming right behind, and the infrastructure itself going to come in segment B later. And this is an image here at Coit Road, where we're building 2 bridges, one right now on the southbound, ultimately it'll be the southbound direction of the roadway, and then we'll flip over to the northbound here in about 3 or 4 months. Our vehicles are Stadler Flirts. These are the first commuter rail vehicles that were purchased by DART, new vehicles that were purchased by DART. And so these arrived in North Texas. We took receipt of 4 in August of last year, took receipt of another 4 in January of this year. They're currently being stored at our yard at TRE, who is being gracious host for us being present there. Hopefully moving vehicles to Plano, moving 2 vehicles to Plano here in a few months for that segmental testing. And sort of the last piece of the corridor and the construction itself is our ultimate maintenance facility. This facility has been envisioned in a few locations, but our project team and our board has settled on siting this facility just about 1,000 feet west of our end-of-line terminus at Shiloh Road in Plano. We've got a widened stretch of the right-of-way here where we can construct a vehicle wash, 2-bay maintenance facility, underground storage tank servicing platform, and ultimately a storage yard for our 8 vehicles to reside. And the great thing about this from a commuter rail perspective is we're right on the corridor. There's virtually no deadhead. We're in revenue service in a matter of minutes from the time we pull out from the yard. So what is the infrastructure if you're not using it and running it? So right now we are contemplating our operating plan. Currently looking to extend our service from about 55 to 60 daily trips a day, mainly targeting hourly service off-peak with half-hour service on-peak, trying to interface all those freight operations along the corridor as well as the meets with Tex Rail, where we both serve at DFW Airport. We are considering 7-day-a-week service, again, with it being less of a commute pattern and more of an area of interest and a mobility solution. We want to make sure that we're providing a reliable service that's frequent and convenient to be able to serve those discretionary trips. We do have the ability to scale for event-based service on the weekends. And ultimately, we're working towards adoption of a service plan in 2025 by our board, ready to roll out for revenue service at the end of 25, early 26. And that's all I've got. I'll take any questions.
Well, Trey, we're going to be in a break right now, so if anyone has a question for Trey, if you want to come on down here, we can go ahead and get the answers for you. So we're going to take a 15-minute break,